Welcome back to Bonanza Disc Golf and to another episode of Project 100, where today I kind of want to take you a little bit way behind the scenes in my training, which is normally a little bit more reserved for my Patreon, where I give them a full session breakdown when I do coaching. And so we're going to go over probably 3 or 4 things in this coaching call that I'm about to bring you guys that will help you if you're throwing everything nose up, if you feel like you're falling over the tee pad, which is something that I had a really bad habit of doing, still have because I haven't really fully practiced this out yet, or if you've heard of the infamous dip in your throw, something that you really have to work out where you come in high and then you have to kind of overcorrect. This coaching call is what addresses all of that, and it's kind of all more connected than I would have thought. But real quick, for this past week up until yesterday, I've been doing network every single day, and I have a video all about how to do network as well as the nets that I recommend. There's a disc golf specific one as well as one that's for baseball, but you can just get it on Amazon. It's a little bit cheaper, but has a few less features and is slightly lower quality. But during all this network, there's been some really good things that I've noticed. One of the things that we talked about a lot was making sure that as you're getting into your throw, you start with your hips up, then you leave your hips up through your X step so that you don't over rotate and come back here where your hips will face backwards. You want your hips to basically either be facing laterally here, or for bigger distance shots, I've been talking to some pros and they've been saying that a lot of the top pros will have about a 45-degree angle here, because when you open up with your last step, it doesn't need to be a stagger step. It can be in line with your hips, but it should look staggered to your target because you're basically stepping from 30 to 45 degrees straight out here. And so compared to my target, there is a window between my legs there. So I've been working a lot on that form, but I was going a little bit too slow. So one of the things that I have been working out this week is how to speed this up slightly, where instead of going super slow, I just kind of come through like this. But the big problem with that is a lot of times you hear like the faster you throw, the farther you throw, because it's true. The more speed that the disc leaves your hand with, which is the key point in faster, the farther it'll go. But in your head, one of the ways that you know to go faster is to run faster. And a lot of times when you're running faster, a lot of your weight and momentum is forward. But we're gonna get to that in a second. I just remembered that we talk about this a pretty decent amount, and we'll cut back to me and I'll give you an example of it.
I just want to clarify this thought process here. And I don't know if it comes through video or not, but you say, like, I'm still leading with the shoulder, I'm trying to lead with the elbow, et cetera, et cetera.
I feel like I'm leaning a little bit with my shoulder instead of having my shoulder be neutral and my elbow come in and go out. Instead, my shoulder is kind of like leaning forward, and then my arm is behind it. And so like it acts like it's leading with the elbow, like, because I think I lean a little bit into the shot.
Yeah, well, you're leaning now, right?
Yep.
Overall balance is super important here. Right step, total different balance structure here.
Yeah, the weight shifted much more back.
Like, you'd be able to stop here. This is one of my favorite things, actually. It's just overall balance, kind of always playing in between the legs, not like leaning over this leg and then the back leg's like this, you know, which this doesn't hold true when you add more tempo and stuff to it. But just being able to stop and prove balance at each of these points, like before the foot goes down and all that. Now foot's down, balance obviously. And then before you start going, you should be balanced here and go. But everything's playing center, kind of A-framing it. No matter where the legs are at, the body's always kind of balanced. And remember how we had talked about the up, up, down, up? Yeah. Well, if you're here and this hip is down lower, now my weight has to go past my front leg in order to stay balanced. But if you kind of sink into this and the left side drops a little bit, it looks like I'm kind of leaning back. Maybe you do call this leaning back. Whatever you call it, it looks like this. So that's kind of the first thing to work on, is just being able to go through that in a balanced position so that we can keep our rotation nice and tight once we get there. Instead of like toppling, it's super important not to go here past this leg, here over this leg into the cross, because now we get that janky cross step where this foot has to catch us and the hips have to go backwards to let that happen, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So just overall balance is super important. So that's the first thing. Second thing is the elbow. Leading with the elbow, leading with the shoulder. What has to happen? What's the deal there? So the question, leading, shoulder, elbow, you were talking about leaning. Yeah. But I think there's actually something else in relation to this that you're not doing. So obviously you don't want your shoulder. We can see where Simon's shoulder's at. It's up here behind this foot. That's a balance thing. He's still inside kind of this A-frame.
Yeah.
Here. This foot has stopped his momentum from going forward, aka the brace, and has allowed him to stay behind this front foot. Now, when the foot stops, the energy goes, up into this hip. Phew. And so we take this, him striding this way, strides this way, this foot stops his weight, then this hip clears, and this is where it turns into rotation. So no matter what, you have to stop this, and we know that. That's what most people know and think about, so that we can keep the body back behind so we can rotate. Now, the leading with the elbow and all that, from here, like once these hips and all that are coming around, the shoulders are coming forward and the arms breaking, right? No doubt that this shoulder's moving forward. And you clarified that you're talking about tipping, not necessarily this aspect, right? But from here, where Simon's at, the elbow and the shoulder stop leading, and the hand and the everything below the elbow, so the forearm, the hand, all that, starts opening very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And so everything else needs to stop leading at this point, and the hand has to go. And I'm saying this relative to how fast everything else is going.
Totally.
The difference between pro players is from here to here, their hand speed, like the speed that the hand moves from this position to this position. If you clocked here to here with a pro, and then you clocked here to here with an amateur, pros would be probably twice as fast. The acceleration of the forearm and the hand and the disc is just massive. So you obviously can't completely stop everything because momentum and stuff like that, but you see this. But here, notice the eyes have gone forward. Curly.
Yeah.
Notice Simon's eyes. You can't because he's wearing sunglasses. Like they go forward basically with the hand to the pocket.
Yeah, and that means my shoulders look almost as open as his there when he's released the disc, and I'm just in the pocket.
Correct. You see here, even with, you're obviously moving way faster than him though, because look at that blur. Camera couldn't even keep up. Yeah, so here's that balance piece we were talking about. The head's leaking forward a little bit. Yeah, your chest, look how far forward your chest is, and look how bent your arm is. Here, he's accelerated the hand so that, let's see, go one frame. Yeah, your arm's extended here, too late. It needs to be extended. Probably here, and even with that, your chest is probably still a little open. So when we practice with our balance, we're here. And once we get to this point, effectively, in the pocket, practice with a stop to where the hand just goes.
Okay.
And then eventually, when you're putting momentum in it, it'll still go forward a little bit, but now the hand will outpace everything else.
Yeah.
Keeping the head down sometimes, I don't know what you got to do, but maybe a marker or something.
Yeah.
On the ground so that when you coil back, cool. And I'm here, and then extend with the hand, keeping the head down. This will also keep you tilted over here at the end instead of the head coming up. And
that brings your shoulder up.
Yeah. So here, boom, every time.
So one thing too that I noticed, I have like a dip, like where I bring it back up and then it comes down, and then my disc is above my elbow. And yesterday I focused so much on trying to not do that, but I don't even think I had a single rep where, even as you were just doing that, you were in that right position right here. And like as I come through, I don't think I've ever had that single rep where it does that. And so I know I'm losing tons of stuff. Like everyone that I've watched who has form, and I didn't even realize that I was doing that, but I don't know what's the deal with that either.
The deal, we've already talked about it. You just didn't know that we talked about it. So
the deal with that, I like it.
Yeah. The deal with that is if the shoulder is dropping here, i.e. what you're saying is leading with the shoulder.
Yeah.
If you're here, the hand's going to follow that, right? Because here's my box. Oh, it's amazing. It's beautiful. Here's my box.
Yeah, because Simon, he's more quote unquote leaned back, but just his weight is between his legs. And so if your weight stays between your legs, then your shoulder is a little more up.
Right. Yeah. If you get here, the shoulder can swing up, right? If you're here, even if you try to swing up with the shoulder, it's still gonna go down.
Yeah.
Right. And this swoop is a result of, it just follows the shoulder. Like, oh, now I've got a reverse swoop. Oh, here it is. Well, here's the swoop. Boom. And then all that happens is your body doesn't want to complete the accurate motion here. And so it goes, let's throw it up instead. Yeah. And throw it into the dirt 2 feet in front of us. So for me, that's a balance thing. That's being in this position here versus in this position here.
Yeah. So here's what this kind of leaning forward ends up looking like. And the reason that you might be doing it is because you might be rushing through your throw. You say, hey, I want to throw fast. I want to throw far. So you'll start rushing through your throw. And that rushing through, you can see all of my momentum and energy is like over this shoulder right here. It's always going forward. And because of that, if I pull through correctly here, this disc is going straight into the ground. And because of where I am right now, no matter what, in order to get into this pocket, the disc is going to be above my elbow, which means it's going to dip. So I've really focused on, instead of rushing through the throw, thinking I want to accelerate at the end. You want to come through, be really methodical, and then have one last point of acceleration. And there, as I'm coming through there, since I'm behind it, I'm going to have a proper elbow angle and be able to get through my throw a little bit better. Very fitting that those are Discmania P1s, and we're watching Simon form, and he just dropped the bomb on us today. So excited to see where he goes. I mean, I feel like it has to be MVP because that's what everyone was saying, and everyone was right about him leaving Discmania, but I don't know. I don't know who's got pockets big enough for Simon, honestly. I have to do obviously a lot more network, and the way that I'm doing it is starting very slow and then increasing the tempo as my body gets used to the movement. This, as well as having different levels of tilt at your hips, will really help with that nose angle as well. But let's head back into the coaching call real fast, and I'll see you guys at the end for basically my plan so far. Okay, another general question. I feel like I throw everything nose up. My hit point, or is that something where, okay, that as well, because I have to overcorrect?
Again, it has no choice. Yeah. But once we can swing on this upward, like once the shoulders can swing up on plane here, now we can throw nose down and still get height. But again, if you're swinging down and get distance, your body you cannot throw nose down.
Okay. And then that is what I'm assuming also will have to do with a lot of my over rotation at the end of my throws when I try to throw for more distance or with more speed, because as I'm down, if I come up with it, then it stops at my foot because everything is like stopped in a line. Because if I'm down, I have to rotate more through because my back shoulder is going to swing a little more.
Right. And the hips like locked out is the thing there. Is if you're here, this hip cannot clear up properly at the end, so there's nowhere for that energy to go. Okay. And keep you back. Yeah. Right. When we're here, if the hip has room to clear up, now we can stay behind the foot, and now we don't have to dip. Right. But if we're here, the hip cannot go up because the rest of our body is behind it, unless you literally jump. That's the only way the hip goes up. Right. Yeah. So here, the energy is going to say, I can't go and clear this right hip because I'm standing on it. It needs to go around. So we want our pressure on the front foot. It's not like we want our pressure back here when we throw. We want our pressure on the front foot, but our balance is not dictated. Like, this is not balance. Yeah. So we want to be kind of behind this front foot. Yeah. So that the hip can clear up, like we saw with Simon. Like most amateurs. So here's most amateurs. Here, and then here, right? And then they have to like fall off the tee pad and use a huge step and all that stuff, right? Cool. Yeah. And like Simon does not need to go past this point. Like if there was a cliff off the edge of the tee pad, he'd be just fine. Yeah. But that's because the energy, again, this like linear energy was able to dissipate and go up into the hand. Yeah. Had somewhere to go. All right, so if you are a patron, don't worry. There actually is a little bit more to this call that I just asked them more questions about because I'm really trying to learn what is everything in the backhand form that I can worry about. So as I'm doing network every day and doing coaching basically every week, if not every other week, there are more and more things I can work on as I figure out the general mechanics of the throw. But just making sure that those main cues of staying back enough that my foot is in front of my body
as I rotate into it so that I don't fall off that cliff like Josh was talking about is massive, as well as keeping that weight back. I'm super excited to do this into a net as well as more into a field because I want to make sure that I'm not throwing down into the net and just throwing it into the ground. If you want to follow this whole journey, my last episode of Project 100 is right up here, which is all about getting a net for disc golf as well as how to use it efficiently, which is what I've been doing to make sure that my form is looking different week to week to week as I tweak it to get pro level form and get onto the Pro Tour ideally this year, because I'm trying to play my first tournament either of the year or on the Pro Tour at OTB if I'm able to make it out there and get into the tournament. So that's just a little update to my schedule for you guys. I don't really know a lot about my schedule other than that, but first I need to continue these rest days because playing soccer for the first time in a year for 2 hours and then lifting legs is not the best idea. Okay, love you.